Mazel tov. I just had a boy.
Mazel tov.
My son had a boy. Just now.
Very nice.
You gonna leave?
Mazel tov, Gracie.
The pictures.
That's
Beautiful.
very nice.
We have a
Very
new member
nice.
of the Daf Yomi show.
You heard?
3 generations is not bad.
Yesterday we finished off in middle of on 98B. What we're talking about is two statements. In the name of Rabbi Shimon Levi, if we nullify prohibited foods in 60 or in 100, we said that we learned them both from the Zraya B'Shela, which is the cooked ram that the Nazir brings. The leg, the front leg, goes to the kohen. So the question was, do you measure just the meat to the rest of the problem is that if it's cooked together, then that meat is going to give a flavor. The meat of the front leg is going to give the flavor in the rest of the animal that you won't be allowed. The Yisrael won't be allowed to eat the rest of it. So we're claiming that it's batal. The flavor is going to be batal. What are we using here to measure this bittul? So one opinion said that you're using the meat and the bones, and you're measuring it in the meat and the bones. And the other opinion said that we're only measuring the meat to the meat. Now, if it's only the meat to the meat, then it's 1 in 100 times. If it's the meat to the bones, then it's 60 times. The Gemara asks, but we really learn from the Zraya B'Shela? We have a brisa that says that zeu heter haba mechlal, that this is a permitted thing, that everything else in such a scenario would be prohibited. So that means we can't learn from this. So Abaya's answer, let's start from Abaya again, like stopped in the middle. Abaya says, Le'nitzchel ol Rabbi Yehuda. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lines from the bottom. Abaya says it's only necessary for Rabbi Yehuda. The Amar min b'mine le'batel, kamashman da'hav batel. Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion, Rabbi Yehuda was the Tana Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eily. He says that if you have two things of the same type, it's not nullified. Over here I have meat and I have together with other meat. It's Rabbi Yehuda, student of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eily. If I have two types of meat, so one doesn't nullify the other as much as it is, even in 1,000 times. It never gets nullified. On the contrary, it strengthens each other. So, according to him, we say that this is in this case is a heter, that nowhere else is it permissible like this. However, not according to Rabbi Yehuda. If you do say that things are nullified, or something in another type, then it's then it makes sense. It's 1 in 50, 1 in 60, or 1 in 100. The Gemara asks, why are we not using this as an example, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that everything is nullified? 1 in 60 or 1 in 100, because we find the precedent that by the ram, things get nullified, even though it's the same type. So the Gemara says, well, v'ligmar minei, we should learn from it. The Gemara says, no, can't learn from it, because we have another pasuk. Gali Rachmana, the Torah, the Eberster, revealed to us, v'lakach midam apar midam asar, that the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, he takes from the blood of the bull and from the blood of the goat, and tavayu bahadei adadin and of leibatli. Even though there's more blood in the bull than in the goat, and nevertheless it says you take from the blood of the goat. That means that it wasn't nullified. Okay, so that's our source where we don't say nullification. We don't say nullification by two things that are the same type. Min b'minai, the same type, blood with blood. So here we have a chiddush.
7 months.
We're going to talk about the chiddush part, but here we have a chiddush that you say that it is nullified, meat with meat. The Gemara says, "My chazos the gamri mehaich v'ligmar mehai." So, okay, you have a precedent by the blood on Yom Kippur that you don't say it's nullified. You have another precedent where you say that it is nullified by the Zraya B'Shela, by the Riyam of the Nazir. So why are you saying that the rule is that it's not nullified, and this is the exception? Make this into the rule, and the other thing the exception. The Gemara says no. Because chiddush mechidush like gamrinan. Here we have a chiddush. You can't learn from a chiddush. Chiddush is something novel, something surprising, and we can't learn from this. So the general rule is always going to be the case of the blood, that one thing doesn't nullify the other. And here it's a chiddush. You can't learn from the chiddush. What is the chiddush over here? Rashi tells us the chiddush is that you're allowed to be mevatel iser lechatchila. Some of the commentaries say, you see, mevatel iser lechatchila means that normally we say that. When do we say bittul? If I made a mistake, I dropped something into the chullin that I wasn't supposed to put in. I'm like, oh, that was milchik or whatever, or some other some isser. I didn't realize it was a mistake. But let's say I actually have ingredients that I want to put in there, and I take it and I put it in. And I say, don't worry, it's not going to be a problem because it's going to be 100 times it. It's going to be 60 times it. It's not a problem. So then I'm being mevatel it lechatchila. I'm putting it in and I'm relying on the bittul. That I'm not allowed to do. According to this, it's midaraisa. Some of the commentaries say that midaraisa you're not allowed to be mevatel lechatchila. It's not just a gezerah derabanan, but not to be mevatel lechatchila. From here we're saying that it's midaraisa because we're saying that the Torah is telling me that this is a chiddush. I can't learn from it. Why can't I learn from it? Because there's a biblical problem here. That over here we're being mevatel, so we're taking the rest of the ram of the nazir, and we're using it to nullify the zraya. Okay. Umar says, well, you've just got yourself into a fix, because what were we bringing this case of zraya b'sheila for? To say that it's going to teach me something. Now we said, well, why don't we learn from it that everywhere else, min b'mina is batal. The same type should be batal, 1 in 60 or 1 in 100. Said, oh no, you can't learn from that, because it's a chiddush. You're allowed, in that case, you're allowed to nullify a prohibited thing initially. They said, Ihachi, if that's correct, lamei v'samach nami ligmar. We can't learn that it's 60 or 100, and that's the whole point of our Gemara. The Gemara says no. Two different types of learning. What we tried to do before was we tried to say that min b'mina should be batal. That would be a leniency. So we can't take a leniency out of this, because this is a novel thing. This is a chiddush. Maybe it's unique. Maybe the fact that it's batal is unique to this, and it's you can't learn from that. But otu anan lekula gamrinan, lechumra gamrinan. When we say that something is nullified, 1 in 60 or 1 in 100, are we being lenient or are we being strict? So we're being strict because the midaraisa beruba batal. Biblically, it's nullified 1 to 2. We're saying that you need 60 times. You need 60 times. We're switching to min b'sheina mina. Rabbi Yehuda would say min b'mina is never batal, midaraisa is never batal, min b'mina loy batal. Over here, it's a leniency that it's batal. Now we're saying that when it comes to min b'sheina mina, something that gives a flavor, a different type. You need 60 or 100. Those two opinions. That's a chumrah, because really, midaraisa it's batal b'roi. Taisus asks, you see, what's going to happen here? This Gemara gets extremely complex as we get into Rava, the next thing, as you can tell from the long Taisus. You just look at the Taisus and you say, oh, this is a difficult piece. Taisus asks that, based on Taisus' opinion, that tam ki'ikar, the flavor of something in the food, is midaraisa. It's machlokes. Tam ki'ikar is midaraisa or not. You see, here's the thing. Scientifically, if there's a flavor in something, it means there's some sort of substance there. Even smell has some sort of substance. Maybe you can't see it, but it's there. There is something there. There's particles of something. The flavor is also particles. According to the halacha, I have the substance and I have the flavor. I don't say that the flavor is particles. I say, for example, fat falls into something. If I remove the fat, because after I still see it still there, I remove that, and the rest of it tastes like fat, so I say that's tam. Because the ikr was removed. But do I say the tam is ki ikr? Do I say the flavor is like the main thing? So it's machlekes. It's machlekes in the Gemara. It's machlekes in the Rishonim, how we paskin. So Tosfos says tam ki ikr is minatayra. So Tosfos asks, what do you mean midaraisa beruba batal? It's not batal berayv midaraisa. You have the tam. You have to nullify the flavor. It's a daraisa. So Tosfos in L'chumra, he says, we're learning possibly that the flavor only goes till 60. That's what we're learning here. Nevertheless, it doesn't mean beruba batal. And also, possibly what we're saying is that sometimes there's no flavor even less than 60. But here we're learning that you still have to keep until 60. We said that from Rashi, held like that before, that Rashi says you need both 60 plus no flavor. So this is a difficult piece. Let's see the next Gemara, and it's you see the complications just only increase. Rava says, by the way, this is the Sugis in Taruvas. This is the beginning of Taruvas, Siman Tzaddik Ches, if you want to remember, because it's page 98. So chapter 98 in Taruva, in your Deyas. Rava says, Lai nitzchel al tam ki iker. De bekadshim aser. Kamashim lan da hachashari. You see, here's our complication. We have a case of a ram that's being cooked, together with the hand, the foreleg that's only allowed to be eaten by the kohen, and the rest of it is allowed to be eaten by others. We said that this is a chiddush. It's a heter that everywhere else it's prohibited. So if that's the case, how can we learn from there the 60 or 100? So we say no. Where is this a heter? This is a heter by leniency. This is by kachim. Because normally by kachim we would say that this is prohibited. However, in other cases, by chulin, we would say that this is permissible, just like the zreya b'shela, just like the cooked ram. So the heter, when we said that Bais that this is a special leniency, that's only referring to by kachim this is a special leniency. Because normally by kachim I'm going to be more strict. Now, let's go to the next page. We'll go back. We'll discuss the complication in Rashi and Tosfos. Let's go. So we're on top of page 99 now. The Gemara says, so we're saying that we can nullify kachim v'ligmar minay. So why don't we learn from the Zreya B'Shela that everywhere else by kachim the taste is nullified? It says, no, by kachim we don't do this because the Torah tells us, the Eibishter tells us by a carbon chatas that kol sheyiga b'bsari yikdash, anything that touches its flesh becomes sanctified. And liyes kamaya, the same sanctity as the chatas. Shimpsula tipasal, if the chatas would be pasal. So what absorbs the juices of the chatas is also pasal. Im kshera, and if it's kosher, the chatas, so teachal kechamer shabaya, you have to eat it like the stricter part. That would mean, so let's say a carbon shlamim touches a chatas. So the chatas has chumras in it, that it can only be eaten by kayanim. The shlamim could be eaten by others. The chatas only has 1 day, the shlamim has 2 days. So it's going to be, this shlamim now takes on the stringencies of the chatas. Okay, so now I have 2 sources, 2 precedents that I can learn from. One says the Zreya B'Shela, that I can say the taste is nullified. The other precedent is anything that touches the chatas becomes like the chatas. So my chazas to gamrinan mihai chligmar mihai. Why do we say that all of kachim is like the chatas? Say that all of kachim is like the zrei b'sheila and it becomes nullified. Exactly what we did before. So we said no. Chiddush u michiddush like gamrinan. Zrei b'sheila is a chiddush. What's the chiddush? Is that you can nullify it initially, and you can't learn from that. The Gemara asks, so we shouldn't learn to 160 either. That was the reason why we quoted this Zrei B'Sheila, is because we tried to learn from it that 60 does nullify and 100 does nullify. So, and now you're telling me I can't learn from there. So it's Ato Anan L'Kula Gamrinan L'Chumra Gamrinan. Really, Midaraisa Bruba Batal. Really, it should be Batal B'Raiv. We're saying that no, you need more, you need 60, you need 100. So it's a Chumra that we're learning from there. Okay, so we mentioned the follow of these Gemaras is the same. Abai and Rav are pretty much the same. Just Abai said, okay, we'll go according to Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda would say this whether it's Kachim or Chullin. And Rabbi says that it has to do with Kachim, that the flavor is going to make it prohibited. Is he talking about only in Rabbi Yehuda? It doesn't sound like it. Sounds like kachim, that we say tam kicker by kachim. Rashi says that by chulin we don't say tam kickers midaraisa. This is bottom Rashi tam kicker. He says, well, what about we have two sources that they say tam kicker back on 98.
You're in this Rashi down here?
Yeah.
No same Tom?
Latam Keker, nice and tam. So he says that by Chulin, really it's Batal Baroiv, and it's just a Chumrah that we have up to 60 or 100, depending on the opinion. He says, yeah, but we have sources that this is not so. We have a source by a Nazir, not by a sacrifice, but it says by a Nazir, Mishras Anavim Leiseichel, anything that's soaked in grape products, the Nazir can't eat. It means that even the flavor from the grape product makes it prohibited. So we see Tam Keker biblically. Then we have another source for Tam Keker. It says by Midian, when they went to war, they were left with pots that needed to be made kosher. What does that tell me? That the flavor that's absorbed in the pot makes it treif. So I have two sources for Tam Keker. So Rashi says that's exactly the reason why we don't say it anywhere else, because you have two sources. Shnei ksuvim habam keachad, you have two psukim, you can't learn from that. So if there would only be one source in the Torah, that would teach me that the flavor everywhere else is that would be a precedent that we should learn that the flavor is tam ke'eker, that the flavor is aser. But because we have two sources, we don't learn from there. And then he says, or it's possible that that each source is not a valid source, and we don't learn from it either. Okay. Taisvis over here says, what are we talking about? This whole Gemara is very strange. You're saying that 1 in 60, 1 in 100 is nullified only by Chulin. By Kachim, 1 in 60 doesn't nullify. 1 in 100 doesn't nullify. That's what the Gemara is saying. What flavor is over 60, over 100? You must be talking about a flavor, what Taisus calls Tam Kaldahu. A flavor that's not really a tasteable, of this minuscule flavor. So we're talking about a minuscule flavor that's going to aser by Kachim. Taisus gets into there's no such thing by Kachim. I'll bring you proofs that by Kachim it's nullified like that anyway. So Taisus says that the way Rashi is learning is not the way that Taisus wants to learn. The way Taisus wants to learn is that, remember we discussed if there's a piece of meat that's sticking in a pot, partially out, there's a discussion, do we consider it under the soup level, or this piece that's sticking out, is this under the soup level or considered above the soup level? We said some machlekes Rashi and Nuri. Taisvus over here says that special chiddush by Zrei B'Shela that we're going to consider it under the soup level, and it's going to be batal like it's considered part of the pot. And sometimes if it's attached, it could be that the flavor goes more into one area than another area. By kachim, we're going to say that it's normally we would say that it's prohibited, but by the Zraya B'Sheila, we're going to have a special leniency that it's permissible. Okay. That's all the complications in short. Ravina Amar. Ravina says, we're going back to the Bais. Bais says, special chiddush by Zraya B'Sheila, that zeu heter haba machlal iser, that this is a leniency that it doesn't apply everywhere else. We say, Ravina says, yes, there is a leniency here. A leniency. What is the leniency? Ela l'makam chetach. If you remember the arm of the ben pekua that was sticking out, we said, when the mother was shechted, we said, oh, you can't eat that arm is nevela. We said, what about that spot that's directly on the line, exactly on the line of coming in and out? We said, oh, that's a problem. So the chiddush here is, zeu heter ba mechlal iser, that by the Zraya B'Sheila, by the cooked riam of the nazir, the makam chetach, that spot that gets cut itself, that's permissible.
Even though given decent time, nevertheless, it's cut. We say no.
No, even though, what we're saying is that the shishim, that's we're learning from there that it becomes nullified. That's not a special heter. That would apply everywhere. The shishim. That's not a special heter of here. Everywhere we would say shishim. What's the heter? Zehu heter. This is a leniency. This is a leniency just in the makam chetach. That spot is permissible. The place where you cut it off. I guess we're talking about where you cut it off after the cooking, because we have different opinions. Do you cook it together? Normally, makam chetach is aser. We would consider this like maybe Yisr Davuk. Yisr Davuk is when something is very close to the Yisr, something's attached to the Yisr, we say that the Yisr spreads into it more than it does into everything else that's in the pot. There's this discussion, if you say Yisr Davuk, if someone catches a fish with the worm inside, and when he cooks the fish, he forgets to take the worm out of the mouth of the fish. They say, does the head of the fish absorb more than the rest of the fish of this? If the worm would have a flavor, that would be prohibited. It's a discussion about if anything's closer to the prohibited part when it's in the pot, does that absorb more prohibited flavor than the rest of it? And then it's not spreading equally. Whatever the case is, here we're saying that even though it couldn't, maybe it's not equal, but nevertheless it's going to be permitted. Makam chetach. Zehu heter. But regarding everything else that we were trying to accomplish here, to say that it's 60 times or 100 times, that's not a special heter that we can learn. Yosef Ravdimi. Yeah.
So it would seem to me, like you said, that it doesn't seem to make a difference whether or not we're talking about the cut off the foreleg ahead of time or after the bishul. Can you just make that comment?
Yeah, but I'm saying...
Okay, but I think there really is a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
In Ravina, there is a difference.
Yeah.
You know, before we said, it could be like this, it could be like that. But now in Ravina, it seems like it's attached during the cooking. That's what... right? That's what you want to say.
Yeah,
right?
So cutting off afterwards...
would change this chiddush.
Because it's already been mater in a way, so
right.
you just take off the
right.
cut, you know.
Right, it would change the chiddush here. Zeu heter could only be talking about... This chiddush would only be when you cut it off after it was already cooked together. Okay, Reb Dimi was sitting. Kamala Shmaitzer. Let's see, Reb Dimi was a traveler.
No, it's not.
And...
I don't even know if I'm the right person.
Please hold the cup.
It's interesting, he's not here. He's probably around the time of Ravin or Rav Zera. Oh, yes, exactly. Ravdimi, I was correct. He's around Ravin and Rav Zera. So...
Actually, not the final.
He was around.
No, 5:30 in the morning.
Said he was around too.
Ravin and Rav Zera, the two other travelers that are there. Well, Rav Zera traveled. We don't know that he traveled back. It sounds like he only traveled to Israel. Remember in the Gemara Shabbos, in the Chanukah Gemara, it says, Bais says, if I would have been Zaycha, I would have heard it from someone that came first. You remember that? It says, well, you heard it now. He said, well, I would have benefited because Girsa the Yankasef, I would have learned it when I was younger. I would remember it better. So that Gemara sort of tells us a bit, like the order of who traveled. Okay, so Rav Dimi was sitting with Kamala Shmait, and he was saying this halacha. Amalei Abaya. I have to move over to the chart over here. Abaya onto the other side. See, Rav Dimi is listed in Israel, but he's saying it, and Abaya is going to talk to him. Abaya says, "You see what happened was Rav Dimi said over this halacha from Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi that everything in the Torah is permissible if it's 1 in 100. So Abaya tells him, really? It takes 100 times to nullify everything in the Torah, all the prohibited things? It's not so. I'm going to prove it to you that it's only 60 times. V'hatanan. Start in the Mishnah. It's not a complicated Mishnah, but there's some details here. It's a Mishnah in Arla. It says, Lama amru kol ha'mechametz ha'metavel v'umedame lahachmer. And the answer is min u'minay. Lahakalu lahachmer, to be lenient and to be strict. The answer is min u'shein u'minay. Let me explain. There are certain things that are a little bit more strict than other things because they have more of an effect as an ingredient. So let's say mechametz is the first example. Mechametz would be something that a yeast, a leavening agent, a sourdough, the mother of the sourdough, or something that causes the other dough to the catalyst that causes it to rise. Metabel, or spices, it could give an extra flavor, not just the regular meat and potatoes. It's a spice, or medama. Medama is usually a mixture of truma and chullin.
Mixture of truma and chullin.
Okay, so this is not an example of anything extra. It's just for other food. So we say this is strict. Why did the sages say this case is strict? We say that's talking about min u'minay. Over there it's strict. What do we say? Why do the sages say that these mixtures are lenient and strict? We say that's min u'shein u'minay. Okay, so apparently min b'minay is more strict. Min b'shein u'minay is less strict. Min b'shein u'minay means that it's going to give a flavor. Let me clarify, because we're doing this. In the laws of taruvas, of forbidden mixtures, we say that everything is nullified 1 in 60. That's what we say. However, there are certain halachas that have extra chumras. For example, truma is not nullified 1 in 60. But where is that chumrah? That chumrah is by min b'minay. We say that arla and kalaya kerem are not nullified 1 in 60, and not 1 in 100 like truma. It's 1 in 200. But that chumrah is by min b'minay, if it's the same type. In other words, this wheat that became forbidden because it was planted in a vineyard gets mixed with this wheat that was planted regularly. So I would need 200 times that, but only if it's the same wheat. If it would be mixed, that wheat was mixed with potatoes or meat, that wheat was mixed with potatoes or meat, so then it would become nullified in the flavor. So all the chumras are really in the min b'minay. That's what we're looking at over here when we're saying this. Min b'shein u'minay, we have certain leniencies. Now we go through to explain this. Again, Abaya is bringing this because he wants to show that things are nullified 1 in 60. And he's questioning Rav Dimi, that's quoting Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, that things are nullified 1 in 100. He says, where do you have? I'll prove it to you that it's 1 in 60, not 1 in 100. So he quotes this. Yeah.
Quick question. What you just said with Klein.
Yeah.
Does that apply to shotness too?
So that's interesting, because if I have a slightest amount of linen in a wool jacket or clothing, it doesn't become nullified. It doesn't become nullified. Because that's the forbidden mixture. That you just created the mixture, no matter how much you created the mixture. Nullification could possibly take place if it would have been nullified, let's say 2 types of wool. I don't know, cashmere. I think one of them it doesn't apply. Shatnez maybe doesn't apply to cashmere because it comes from goats or camels.
Like a nun?
So no, yeah, the opposite. You
Like Hanan, that the whole thing becomes if you put them together.
no. Hanan means that if I have a mixture and then it mixes again, that I have to use the first full mixture. Here we're saying there's no measurement. It doesn't matter. So, but if I would say, but if it gets mixed in something that doesn't prohibit it, for example, 2 types of wool get mixed. So then it could be that I would say that it's already nullified. That's possible.
So the reason I said that is just to remind you all that when you get your suits, make sure the shatnez tested, and if it has shatnez, that the shatnez is removed. Stama say you can't just buy a suit.
And it's especially relevant for
Sponsored by Shad
All suits or wool
Laboratories.
suits?
Sponsored by Rabbi Sommer. He doesn't know it.
it's especially important for Purim
That's right.
because people put on costumes that they forget to check, and they also put on 4-cornered garments that they don't realize need tzitzis. And they put on all types of things, and Purim people forget. So if it's a lady, so the 4-cornered garment is not an issue. But I saw in yeshiva there was a boy walking around. We had like a carnival or something. I said, that's not going to go.
That's why they put the round in the back.
Yeah, it could be.
Yep. That's it.
When you replace the buttons, you have to make sure they use polyester
Right.
thread.
Right. Right. It's important. This very sad story. This guy wanted to be very firm about shatnez, so he went to a tailor, had his suits custom made. So after a few years, he asked the tailor, "How do you so sure that?" He says, shows him the thread. I use pure linen, and then it was the wool suits. Okay. Ukatani Seifa, and the end of this Mishnah continues. Lahakul lahachmir min v'sheni min ketzad. Explain the scenario of where you're lenient and strict in this mixture. So grisin is a split pea, a split bean, or the word gris actually means split. Shenis bashlam ma'adashim, which is cooked with lentils.
Truma.
Now the truma is the grisin, the adashim is the chulin. So im yesh ben b'neisin tam, if it can give a flavor, if there's a flavor there, then ben yesh ben b'halis b'meya v'echad, ben ein ben b'halis b'meya v'echad aser. Then whether there's 1 in 100 or there's not 1 in 100, it's prohibited. Now the reason why truma is 1 in 100 is because truma is 1 out of 100. So truma becomes nullified 1 in 100. The word truma is trey. Mimeya. No, it's not 1 out of 100. I'm sorry. It's 1 out of 50. 1 out of 50. So why is truma 1 in 100? It's just extra chuma. It's 2 out of 100.
From 100, Trey Mimei.
Right, trey mimeya. It's 1 out of 50.